Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, Francesca Fiorentini with you guys today. Sorry we had a slight technical issue there in the beginning. We're all right now. Let's get going. Without further ado, Francesca.
There's so much. Okay, so this country is getting a taste of not only what happens when you ban abortion, but when you allow religious zealots to write those abortion bans. And what happens is people who do want to have kids are immediately also put in danger, and their lives are threatened. And we're starting to understand that now. Remember, 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in miscarriage, right? How do you most effectively and safely remove fetal tissue when you're having a miscarriage, when you've had a miscarriage? Processes known as the D&C or a D&E to extract that fetus that, again, not viable, person wanted to be pregnant, etc. Not so anymore. Under draconian anti-abortion laws, we're now seeing women who are miscarrying be left to bleed out and to actually risk infection. And one of those women is Marlena Stell of Texas. And this happened to her last year, actually, if you remember, right after the abortion ban, the fetal heartbeat ban, that essentially deputized citizens of Texas to become vigilantes and to sue individual abortion providers and doctors. Right after that went into effect, she was miscarrying, and here is part of her story.
Stell's nightmare started out as a dream come true. After months of trying, she became pregnant late last summer.
We were super excited because we didn't think I could get pregnant.
An ultrasound at 7.5 weeks showed all was well. But at an ultrasound 2 weeks later,
she said, there is no heartbeat, there is no viable pregnancy.
Stell asked her doctor for a standard treatment, a surgery to remove the fetal remains. She says her doctor refused. That surgery, commonly known as a D&C, is the same procedure used to abort a living fetus.
She said, well, because of the new law that's passed, you're gonna have to get another ultrasound for me to be able to even do anything for you.
Right, so her doctor refused to give her this procedure. And what happens when someone is refused a procedure like a D&C for a routine miscarriage? Let's go to that right now.
She can develop an infection that can make her sterile and never able to have children again.
Or even worse.
When the baby dies inside, the baby starts to release parts of its tissue that can get into the mother's blood supply. It can cause organ failure. It can cause death.
Organ failure, sterilization. These are the results of the so-called pro-life anti-abortion bans that places like Texas are currently undergoing. Obviously, a lot of this, and we're gonna get into, has created a legal and ethical nightmare for doctors, but also for patients themselves. What is the final act of what happened to Marlena? Where is she at now? What happened to her?
She did finally manage to find a doctor to perform her D&C, but it took 2 weeks. She worries the nightmare could happen to her again. Are you trying to get pregnant again?
No.
Why not?
I'm worried about getting infected, have something happen to me, and then my daughter's left without her mom.
Now they're contemplating moving away from Texas, away from their extended family, just so they can try to get pregnant again.
That's right, she is already a mom, wanted a little brother or sister for her daughter, and was denied that, now too afraid to get pregnant again. Again, I just wanna reiterate that happened last year, but this year it's only worse. In fact, just a few days ago, the Texas Medical Association sent the Texas Medical Board a letter saying, you gotta do something about these bans because our hospitals are completely in disarray. Physicians are not treating ectopic pregnancies. In fact, one Central Texas physician was told to wait until the ectopic pregnancy ruptured before treating it. Ectopic pregnancies are when a pregnancy it begins outside of the uterus. So in the fallopian tubes, for example, it happens to 1 in 50 pregnancies. Now that's not a lot, not as much as 1 in 4, but still life-threatening. So it's not just miscarriages, it's ectopic pregnancies. Again, all people who wanted to be parents. Cenk?
Yeah, so first let's start with the obvious. Republicans are monsters. So this is not a close call. The doctor says you have to get the dead fetus out, otherwise it can kill the woman who is alive. And the pro-life party says, no, I don't care about that woman at all. Let her die if we want to. The fetus is already dead. What difference does it make? Nah, I don't know, man. I just want to control her body for 2 more weeks. I mean, if you're a Republican, you're stating, I don't care about her life at all, at all. Organ failure, have it, I don't care. A dead fetus is worth more to a Republican than an alive woman.
Yep.
Facts. So now when I say things like that on the show or in social media, I get largely 2 reactions from right wingers. One is, oh, no Republican actually believes that. Really? Because it's the law. And so she didn't make it up. She actually had to go through that. And by the way, we now have story after story. In fact, our very next story in the show is about something similar in Louisiana. And so, and today, and just yesterday, Idaho GOP overwhelmingly passed a revision to their platform. The law in Idaho was a trigger law that once Roe's overturned, you get to, Idaho got to outlaw abortion, but it had exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. And the Republicans in Idaho thought that was far too moral and decent. They said, how can we be way more immoral towards women and crush their lives and oppress them in every possible way? Oh, I got an idea, rape and incest, of course. No one cares. There's no way that we are going to care about a woman getting raped or suffering from incest. She'll have the rapist baby and she'll like it, said the Republicans. Look, these are facts. If you don't like it, then don't be a Republican. But on top of that, they said, we don't give a rat's ass if the mom dies. They took away the exception for the life of the mother. These are the pro-life people. They're not pro-life at all, at all. They're pro-oppression, anything to oppress women, and they love it. They love it. So the second reaction that I get from right wingers is, well, she shouldn't have had sex. Oh, okay. So it is about controlling the woman. That's what I thought. Okay. And by the way, you're not bitter that she's having sex. You're bitter that she's not having sex with you. So let's keep it real. The loser men of the Republican Party who sit there pathetic and go, well, I want to control what they get. No women will be with me. How can I control them in some other way? Okay, so that's just the reality of the pathetic state of the Republican Party. And if you don't like it, well, I like that lady dying a lot less than you dislike being called names that are perfectly accurate.
Yeah, I mean, and this will impact their own families, right? Oh, but maybe they'll be able to like fly their families and their wives and their spouses across the country to find an abortion, right? Maybe they will get the pill and then tell no one about it. But again, this is not just elective abortion. This is non-elective abortion, also known as miscarriage, right? And so this is about maternal health. And as someone who's 6 months pregnant, you're damn right I'm giving a lot of attention and care a lot about maternal health, because knock on wood, but if something were to happen to me and I live in Texas, oh, forget it. I am in trouble. I had a friend recently miscarry. If she were outside of California, forget it. She's dealing with that, not to say nothing of the physical pain, the emotional pain of being denied care, of having your already a loss that you didn't want be prolonged and protracted because these doctors won't attend to your needs, is absolute criminal. So Cenk is right. Let's just read that the Idaho GOP convention in Twin Falls on Saturday, the delegates approved changes to the party's platform that criminalize all abortions, no exception for rape, incest, or to save the life of the mother. They don't care. The platform states, we affirm that abortion is murder from the moment of fertilization. Funny you start there. What about before? All children should be protected regardless of the circumstances of conception, including persons conceived in rape and incest. All children, they don't even have a heartbeat. And I guess final point. So the Texas heartbeat bill, for example, bans abortion at around when a fetal heartbeat can be detected. But oftentimes you don't actually ever get a fetal heartbeat. It's not clear. And especially in cases of pregnancy complications, you might never get a heartbeat, right? You might be beyond 6 weeks, 7, 8, 9 weeks, and you don't, that's the whole point. And if Texans say, okay, well, we're not Idaho. We've got carve outs. We're not that awful. We're not that ruthless. We carve out for the life of the mother. Here's a mom, including so many others, who are being forced to take ectopic pregnancies to their natural conclusion, which is what? Their death, pretty much. Their emergency room death. Or they pray that if they have a rupture, that they'll hemorrhage, but they won't hemorrhage too much. And there won't be many people in the ER that day, and damn it, they'll be fine, and someone will save their life.
Yeah, no, I have no respect left for any Republican. So if you can't understand that a pregnancy happens inside the uterus, and if it happens in the fallopian tubes, that it has no chance of survival, you don't understand anything. Then you don't understand that 2 + = 4. You don't understand anything. And the thing about the Republican Party is now they celebrate their ignorance. They're like, yeah, we don't know how pregnancies work. We don't care. When do we get to make the woman suffer? Yeah, that's you guys, Republicans. That's exactly who you are. The Idaho vote was not close. You know what it was? It was 412 to 164 in the GOP caucus for saying we don't care at all if the life of the mom is in danger. The government is to seize her body. Big government is to get between her and her doctor. She is not allowed to make that private choice. We finally got her. We're back in control of women's bodies. Say the sick sons of bitches who are Republicans in this country. So just admit it. You don't care about life. All you want to do is have the power in what you would call the freedom to oppress others. And by the way, Francesca's right about everything she said there, including the family of the women. Well, not all of us are monsters like you guys, Republican men. So I know plenty of guys who had wives who had miscarriages. Very similar to that lady in the report, where the fetus is not alive. It has it doesn't have a heartbeat. It's not a functioning pregnancy. And we decent men of the world think, well, let's help her immediately. The indecent, immoral men of the world, otherwise known as Republicans, go, maybe we let her die. Who cares about her or life? Finally, we're back in charge of other people's bodies. That's the state of the Republican Party. That is an indisputable fact. Don't come and tell me that, you don't agree with that, but you voted for every single legislator that does agree with that. That means you do agree. Don't come to me with, well, I got tax cuts, so I don't care about women and I don't care if they die. Okay, then you're a terrible, terrible person. Okay, so go just, you don't understand science, you don't understand anything. It's impossible to not be super frustrated by these guys. And finally, the shouldn't have had sex argument. Okay, so that woman's life is in danger for at least 2 weeks in that particular story. It could be a lot longer. And if it's in the fallopian tubes, they're gonna kill all the women that have that problem. That's 1 out of 50. That's 2% of all the pregnancies in the country. That is hundreds of thousands of people. They are going to risk killing them all. And so then they say, well, I shouldn't have had sex. Okay, first of all, duly noted, no one should ever have sex with a Republican man. They are dangerous, okay? And they are stupid, and they will try to ruin your lives. So don't make that mistake, women of America. And second of all, okay, how about the men who had that? Sex is not a one-way street. I know for Republican men it is. You do it all on your own. But normally, what you need someone else as a partner, okay? And so if her life is in danger, can we put your life in danger for 2 weeks? Can we hang you like by your feet off a cliff and go, well, we probably won't drop you. Yeah, there's some percentage chance that we will. But hey, you shouldn't have had sex.
Once she's safe, we'll let you go.
Yeah, that's right. Francesca, perfect point. The minute the woman is safe, the man is safe. We can come up with other different ways to torture the man who made the mistake of having sex, because you're finding different ways to torture the women.
Yep.
That's real. That's real. It's not theoretical. Those are real women. You saw her with your own eyes. And they say, keep the dead fetus inside of you, and we're gonna torture you with that for weeks. Okay, where's the guy who had, I mean, what do we, show me a Republican man. Let's do the same exact torture to him. Maybe we stuff a dead, any carcass inside his body and say, now you carry that for 2 weeks, okay? Why is that not the same thing?
Take whatever is on Ted Cruz's face and put it on the inside of him.
Yeah, we can find a way to get it inside. You don't worry, okay? And so same rules. Oh, but if it's applied to men, all of a sudden Republicans are out. No. You can't do that to a cherished man. Women, you can do anything you want to. If you're a woman, you vote for Republicans, you're giving away all of your rights. So yeah, good luck to you. I hope that the new American Taliban are kind to their women, but I know for a fact that they are not. So enjoy your fundamentalist lunatic party.
Sadly, there is more on the other side of our break.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Francesca with you. We do have good news later in the show. It's shocking good news, but not yet. So Francesca, go ahead.
Okay. So the fallout from the Dobbs decision is proving to be a legal, policy, ethical nightmare for everyone. Obviously, patients and pregnant people, number one. But second in line are doctors who are left scratching their heads and consulting lawyers before they do life-saving treatment on their patients. That is happening across the country, and specifically we're gonna look at a case in New Orleans where a Dr. Valerie Williams is joining a lawsuit to contest Louisiana's abortion trigger ban, which went into effect obviously when the Dobbs decision came down, overturning Roe v. Wade. Williams in an affidavit recounts a recent experience that she had with a patient that I just wanna warn is incredibly upsetting, and yet somehow we have to understand this is the world that we're now in. So she writes, when the trigger bans went into effect over the weekend, I experienced firsthand and got brief insight into how these laws would harm Louisiana patients and cause unnecessary trauma and pain. I saw a patient whose water broke at 16 weeks, which is far before viability. There was no way for the pregnancy to continue without putting the patient's health at risk, and the fetus was already starting to deliver. I originally offered to perform a medical procedure called a DNE, dilation evacuation, to quickly and safely end the pregnancy. A DNE would have lasted approximately 15 minutes. After our consultation, the patient expressed that this was her preferred option since she was already traumatized from her experience and felt that an induction, which would require labor and delivery of the fetus, would be too much for her. Once I left the room, however, I heard from my hospital's lawyer that I could no longer perform the requested procedure because the trigger bans had gone into effect. Going back into the hospital room and telling the patient she would have to be induced and push out the fetus was one of the hardest conversations I ever had. She then describes a little bit of the labor. She was forced to go through the painful hours-long labor to deliver a non-viable fetus despite her wishes and best medical advice. Quote, she was screaming not from the pain, but from the emotional trauma she was experiencing, the doctor wrote. The woman then hemorrhaged nearly a liter of blood, according to the affidavit, but she survived. So cool. Finally, this doctor writes, the trigger bans have turned a hospital room and a medical procedure into a legal consultation, all while patients' health and safety are at risk. As a result of the trigger bans being in effect for just a few hours, this patient was forced to go through painful, hours-long labor to deliver the non-viable fetus despite her best wishes and advice. I'm already read this. She writes, "This was the first time in my 15-year career I could not give a patient the care they needed. This is a travesty." Right, doctors are being put in these positions. Doctors are having to consult lawyers in the middle of these decision-making processes. An attorney, Joanna Wright, for the abortion providers in Louisiana, said the state's abortion ban is putting doctors in incredibly difficult situations. Under the new law, doctors and other providing abortions are subject to a 10 to 15-year jail terms, with exceptions only for medically futile pregnancies and abortions done to, quote, prevent the death or substantial risk of death to the pregnant woman. In other words, how much hemorrhaging is too much hemorrhaging? I don't know. They don't know. There's multiple other cases on this. Let's go down. I just want to go down to. Let's see. Let's go down to graphic 8 really quickly. This is another doctor in Wisconsin, saying that a physician in her practice contacted her the week after the Supreme Court decision, and as she treated a patient with a ruptured ectopic pregnancy. Again, 1 in 50 pregnancies. She knew exactly what she had to do because the woman was bleeding and was clearly gonna die if nothing was done, Zeal said, but she wasn't sure what she needed to do to document, to be sure she wouldn't be charged with a felony. So then, to protect herself from criminal prosecution, Zeal's colleague, Ilana Winstrom, turned to an emergency room physician who treated the patient and a radiologist who reviewed the ultrasound showing the rupture, a process that took more than an hour. It turned my attention away from the bedside of the critical care patient toward documentation, Winstrom said. So in other words, Zeal is there. This is the doctor in Wisconsin. She's got to make this decision. There's a ruptured ectopic pregnancy, but am I gonna get sent to jail for doing this procedure? Instead of doing it and helping this patient, she goes and gets 2 different signatures from 2 different other doctors because of the lawyer in the hospital told her to do so. And one of those doctors, Winstrom, said, yeah, I was in a critical care moment, helping another patient, and I had to turn and sign off on this thing that 3 weeks ago was the most normal decision. That is in Wisconsin. We started off talking about what was happening in New Orleans, but it's around the country.
Yeah, so they're literally letting women bleed out. And this is the theoretically pro-life party. If a Republican is talking, that means he's lying. No, when they say pro-life, you know what, here, one of our viewers wrote in on Super Chat, really good comment on YouTube. Grandma Sunshine Dragon wrote in, Republicans are pro-life only when it's pre-life. I'm gonna amend that a little bit, and I'm gonna use that from now on. They're not pro-life, they're pre-life, okay? But even then, it's like, it's in the fallopian tubes, it has no chance of survival. You can't possibly have a baby delivered from the fallopian tubes, it has to be in the uterus. I have to explain these things to Republicans. And they're like, yeah, don't care. Oh, it's not alive? It has no chance of being alive. Yes, but does it oppress the woman? Oh, good, check, no problem. As long as the woman is oppressed and big government controls her body and takes away her freedom, if you're a Republican, you love government tyranny, and so you're in for it. Oh, she's bleeding out on the table, and we've told the doctor that they can't save her life. Yes, that's how a Republican reacts. These are facts.
Yeah,
that's the law.
I would even go further.
They're gonna die all across the country, bleeding out on surgery tables because the Republicans want them to. Don't tell me you're not in favor of it if you pass the law in favor of it.
Yeah, and I would even go further and say they're not just pre-life, they're pro-death, they're pro-rape, and they're pro-incest. They're pro-death, pro-rape, and pro-incest because when you take abortion rights away, even in those cases, and once again, the carve-outs mean nothing in practice, right? Because how many times have oh yeah, rapist's been caught and just in time to, have an abortion. Wait a minute, what? Yeah, our legal system works real quick like that. So you get that carve out for abortion when you've got a 3-year-old child. Like, so what I'm saying, they are making excuses for their disgusting, misogynist, like pervasive self. Straight up, their incestuous, rapey party. That's what they want. And if women have to die so they can get like sort of a pass for rape or incest, then that's cool too. They want that. The second thing I want to say is, I guess I'm tired of doctors consulting lawyers, to be honest with you. Since when? And like, why are we this? And this is the problem with our medical system generally, is how in every step of the way, hospitals, they are so worried about being sued. Our country is insanely litigious. And now you have that being applied to women in the most basic reproductive health situations. And I'm just tired of all of these. Should we, shouldn't we? I think the moral thing is to do it. Look, I understand that people's licenses might be at risk. I understand that you might, someone might sue you. So what? Do it. Just do it, because you are saving a life, and that is what the job is there to do. Obviously, everyone else, lawmakers, activists, everyone has our role to play in terms of changing these laws, in terms of expanding the court, in terms of standing up to these bans. But my God, in the immediate, can we just say that you just go ahead and do the procedure will save these people's lives?
Look, man, I don't know what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it, but we're not gonna let any doctors go to jail. No. If Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, wherever you are, wherever you're in a Taliban state in America, and they try to put a doctor in jail, we're gonna come surround the goddamn building.
Yes.
Okay. No, we're doctors who save lives are heroes. They're not villains, you monsters. Okay. And to Francesca's point about helping rapists, you say, oh, come on, guys, you guys are being outrageous. Oh, we let women die on the surgery table because we're pro-life, but you guys are being outrageous with your rhetoric. No, you're being outrageous by causing the deaths of so many women that is gonna happen now. You're being outrageous by not letting a 10-year-old get an abortion after she's been raped. Okay, so, but Francesca's being literal, because think about this, guys. If some guy hates a particular woman in a Taliban state in America, that's the red states, and says, oh, you know what? Not only am I gonna rape her, but I'm gonna try to get her pregnant, so she has to have my baby and take care of it for the rest of her life. The Republican Party will help him do that. That's a fact.
Yep.
They won't help him rape her, okay? But they'll help his dream of making that poor woman carry his child and take care of his child. So don't tell me Republicans don't help rapists. That's what's happening. So I'm not the one that passed laws that's saying, hey, if you get raped, we're gonna help the rapist so that you carry the child. I didn't pass those laws. If you're a Republican, look at yourself in the mirror. You passed those laws. If you're uncomfortable with it, then change it. If you're comfortable with it, then own it and know that you're the party that helps rapists and helps kill women.
Helps pedophiles. Hey, let's just addendum to that, because incest by nature is rape. Also, familial rape, pretty bad, pretty terrible. Also pedophilia. So there you go, all in one. You got the anti-pedophile party now defending pedophiles, allowing them to get away with doing disgusting acts to their family members. You guys did that. Republicans did that. Anyway, it is not all doom and gloom on the abortion rights front. There is fight back, and we gotta talk about it. Obviously, not only on the ground in community clinics and people who are still struggling to stay open and to serve all people, but in DC. So just today, Capitol Police arrested 34 abortion rights demonstrators for blocking a road in DC, and among those, 16 representatives, 16 lawmakers, including Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Representative Ilhan Omar, Representative Cori Bush, Representative Rashida Tlaib, and Representative Ayanna Pressley. So the squad plus the people you might imagine, and here's a little bit of that arrest. She's carried away to the sound of the beat there, the little drum circle. That was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez being carried away with another activist alongside her. She was in handcuffs there. And this is Representative Rashida Tlaib putting out a statement. She was also arrested. She writes, "Civil disobedience has always been part of our history and fight for change. This moment and the fight for women's and reproductive rights calls for it. The fight is far from over, and we must push forward with bold action to protect and preserve our rights. We won't back down." So they're putting their bodies on the line. Meanwhile, Jill Biden is saying things like, "What are you gonna do next, little girl?" By the way, she said that to her granddaughter, who also went out and protested recently abortion rights and the abortion bans. And she said, "Cute, what are you doing next?" That was fun. Amazing. 2 quick notes. It's not all doom and gloom on the state level. Minnesota has recently a judge struck down numerous state abortion restrictions. The judge found that several of the laws which were enacted over decades violated the Minnesota Constitution, which enshrines abortion rights. Again, we're back to state rights here, states' rights. So Minnesota did that. Now Michigan collected tons of signatures, 750,000 signatures. And so abortion rights now poised to go before Michigan voters this fall as hundreds of thousands signed the petition. It broke records. They want to put that into their state constitution. These are Midwest, bluish, mostly blue states, but especially on abortion rights, absolutely overwhelmingly for them. And if it's been kicked back to the states are trying to buck up to not throw women and other people under the bus.
Yeah, so I love this development in terms of the protests. Progressive activists have been trying to get influential Democrats to do something for decades now. And civil disobedience is top of the list when it comes to issues like this. And up until now, we've gotten a wall of no, you guys go out there and we'll privately mock you and tell the reporters not to cover you. We're not gonna put our precious ass on the line. But now we have just Democrats, and now we have progressives in Congress. And progressives actually want to fight Republicans. Establishment Democrats love Republicans, and they like Republicans. Joe Biden likes Republicans way more than he likes his own voters, way more. I mean, Mitch McConnell said that the Chad Meredith nomination, the extremist right-wing judge that is anti-choice that Biden was going to put on to the federal bench, McConnell said, "I didn't even ask for anything. Joe just did it as a sign of personal friendship, as a gesture of friendship." Because Joe Biden loves Mitch McConnell. He loves him. His own voters, he couldn't give a rat's ass about, okay? But sorry, now there's progressives in Washington. And so they're taking action, they're doing civil disobedience, and I love it. And by the way, mainstream media liars, okay, you always portray progressives as not democratic enough, which is the height of absurdity. No, they're actual Democrats, and one of the ways that they show that is they would like to fight the other side. The other side is Republicans. I know if you're in the press, you're taught to love bipartisanship. Oh, when corporate Republicans and corporate Democrats make out and they make a little corporate subsidy bill, baby, that's when you're like the happiest guys alive. You're like, yes, finally, corporations win again and again, yes, bipartisanship. Oh, progressives are fighting Republicans. Tut, 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 how dare you? Don't you know that the job of the Democrat is to lose and to surrender to Republicans? No, we don't know that. And if you're an establishment Democrat, get the hell out of our way, which is, by the way, 90% of the Democratic Party. Get out of the way, get out of the fight way so we can get into the fight and fight those Republicans. So thank you, AOC, Tlaib, and all the others for being actual Democrats and for actually caring. And I mean, you would Democratic leadership. I mean, they might do this like many months from now with kente cloth and a Bono poem in their hand, as like if they realize it's good optics, and then they can send an email fundraising off of it, right? But otherwise, you're never gonna see them take any action to fight Republicans. Nothing at all.
And especially
Democratic leadership has done. Sorry, Francesca.
Oh, no,
just
yeah.
one more thing.
Yeah.
The only thing Democratic leadership has done since Roe got overturned was to help anti-choice legislators. That's not hyperbole.
Yeah, no.
Nancy Pelosi helped to put Cuellar, Jim Clyburn helped to put Cuellar back into Congress. Cuellar is anti-choice. That's a fact. He voted to defund Planned Parenthood, among many other terrible votes. And Joe Biden tried to put an anti-choice judge on the federal court. That the only thing they've done is to help the other side.
Yep.
Democratic leadership they're the worst people on the planet, because the Republicans might be monsters, but these idiot Democratic leaders are like, how do we help those monsters?
Yeah. No, 100%. And I'll just say that Nancy Pelosi, as recently as 2016, was saying that abortion rights shouldn't be a purity test for Democrats. Yeah, you can be anti-choice and still a Democrat. No, you don't get to do that. Sorry, not anymore. And the new progressive leadership that is coming up is not afraid to say the word abortion, is not afraid to link it to broader maternal health care, is not afraid to be the ones on the front effing lines of things like universal family leave, of Medicare for all, because of course this is an access issue, this is a healthcare issue. So my God, I just wish they would sit their asses down and think about and like look at the beasts that they've handed us to. They've walked us into the mouths of these murderers. And now they want to wash their hands of what they've done. I mean, you're absolutely right.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, there is a fight within the Democratic Party, and there are good guys and bad guys. We're gonna tell you who the good guys are and the bad guys are. And this segment will be considered, unacceptable by every single creature inside of Washington. Even the snails are like, no, don't do it. You're not allowed to say things that are true. Okay, yeah, I don't care. We don't care. We're gonna speak truth when we come back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Francesca with you guys. Make sure you're checking out the Bituation Room, which is in our podcasting network, and that's actually the only place you could find it. So check out our entire podcasting network, but definitely Francesca's show, Bituation Room. All right, Franny, what's next?
Well, it might not surprise you that most voters in most districts across the country don't really rank Israel policy as like the number one, number two, maybe not even in the top 10 issues that they care about when they go to vote. But that doesn't matter, because AIPAC and other pro-Israel lobbying groups are absolutely dominating the Democratic primaries as if it were one of the top concerns for voters. It's not, it's a top concern for them. So very interestingly, they're now, and we've covered how much they've been funneling money into a lot of Democrats in these primaries. But HuffPost has done an investigation specifically into a race in Maryland, where AIPAC and other groups have been very invested. So 2 pro-Israel groups are pouring over $6.4 million into the contest, aiming to defeat former US Representative Donna Edwards and boost the candidacy of Glenn Ivey, a former prosecutor and Capitol Hill aide. While little separates the 2 candidates ideologically, Edwards' willingness and even gently break with Capitol Hill's longstanding consensus on Israel issues has earned her the ire of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC. Now both candidates were interviewed for this, and they're like, yeah, I don't know why, because my stance isn't that radical and none of our voters care. But Edwards is cashing in. So Edwards says this is a district where the issues that are core to the AIPAC and its affiliated organizations don't ever come up. He said of the majority black district, calling the spending, quote, shocking. So to have these folks come in and spend this level of money in this congressional district is actually quite offensive. This is Donna Edwards, who's not receiving that money, but saying, it's kind of insane that we've got all this outside spending. Ivy concurred, actually. This is who's getting the money. Glenn Ivy concurred, noting Israel never came up in candidate forums or debates. We haven't really done much with that, he said, adding, I'm certainly pro-Israel. So why are they doing this? Even though nobody, including these candidates, seem to take very specific stances, and we'll get into her offense and what she did. But someone from the United Democracy Project, which is again one of these pro-Israel groups, said, we're gonna do our best to make sure that no new anti-Israel member of the squad gets elected. There's no question Donna Edwards would actively undermine the US-Israel relationship. Okay, so what did Edwards do? This is graphic 6. Edwards elicited particular skepticism from AIPAC for a decision to, quote, vote present on a host of largely symbolic resolutions affirming US support for Israel, including a 2009 resolution endorsing Israel's right to defend itself from attacks from Gaza. But with her support for a two-state solution and opposition to the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against Israel, Edwards is a long-standing ally to J Street, a more liberal pro-Israel group. So again, she supports this two-state solution, right? Instead of sort of maybe the more radical, supposedly, but like a one-state solution, like an actual democracy, not, two states divided by a giant wall. And she's like, yeah, BDS is bad, even though we all know boycott, divestment, sanctions, it's a non-violent tactic of resistance that was used in South Africa. Now, obviously, Palestinians are calling for it to be used against Israel for the occupation of their land. So she's pretty pro-Israel as it goes, but not pro-Israel enough. So Glenn Ivy is cashing in. He's getting all this money.
Yeah, so let me be clear. There's unfortunately a history of anti-Semitic tropes about how Jews control the politicians. It was used in Germany, it's been used throughout Europe, and now the right wing in America uses it against Jewish Americans, okay? So that is not the case here. This is a policy dispute. And by the way, to Francesca's point, it's actually a small policy dispute. Should it be, this policy that's pro-Israel or this policy that's massively, unquestioningly pro-Israel, right? But at the same time, we can't let, and by the way, how do we know that this is not the people that are saying, hey, we should do it two-state solution or even a one-state solution, but it should be democracy and it's that it's not anti-Semitic. J Street is Jewish. They're in favor of some of the policies and some of the candidates that are being attacked here by, well, I'm going to loosely call it the Israeli lobby. Okay, so now one of the candidates they were attacking the most is Andy Levin, who's Jewish. So there's wonderful Jewish Americans that are the best progressives in the country, and they agree with us. So this isn't about religion. This is about far right Israeli lobby saying we've decided unilaterally that progressives are our biggest enemy, and we will spend millions of dollars to defeat them. Okay, you chose this fight. So for the moment being, they're winning because God, they've got so much money. And they spend all this money, and just like any other lobbyist of any religion, and most importantly, no religion, because corporations have the biggest lobbies, right? And they're not people. I know Republicans and corporate Democrats that think that they're people. They're not people, they're corporations. Okay, they don't have any religion, they don't have any background. All they have is a financial interest. All of those different lobbies bribe American politicians. That's a fact. They're called campaign contributions, and the Supreme Court legalized those bribes, but they're still bribes. And every person that is the beneficiary of these bribes from AIPAC and Democratic Majority for Israel has sworn undying fealty to a foreign government. They say, we will always, unquestioningly support Israel, no matter what. Why? I don't know. They spent $6 million in my campaign. They got me elected when I was totally unpopular. Chantel Brown, let alone everyone else, okay, that was a beneficiary. Well, why don't you just hang a sign around your neck that says, I'm owned by AIPAC?
Yeah.
And by the way, a lot of Republicans would also have that sign because AIPAC is given to hundreds of Republicans. So the monstrous Republicans, AIPAC also raises money from them. Democratic Majority for Israel also raises money from Republicans and gives it to Republicans and gives it to corporate Democrats and tries to defeat progressives. So do not go anywhere near anti-Semitism. That's nuts. That's for dumb people, okay? People that don't understand science and decency, okay? But I don't care who the government is. If the foreign government is bribing our officials, and they'll say, no, we're Americans who love Israel. Well, I don't care. You're bribing politicians on behalf of a foreign government. I'm Turkish. If Turks did that, it would be outrageous. Saudis do that. It's outrageous, okay? Just because you're from Israel or you say that you favor Israel, you don't get a free pass. Yes. I don't care what BS charge. If you say anything that is opposed to us politically, we will label you anti-Semitic. Have at it, Hoss. You're goddamn liars. You have no credibility. And by the way, who else did they attack? The greatest Jewish presidential candidate in American history. A guy who actually had a chance to win and be a Jewish president in America. And what did they do? They attacked him. So
it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism, and that's exactly right, and that's exactly how we know, because this is actually just a small amount of daylight that they're afraid of. So my last thought is I think the far right Israeli lobby is actually running scared. That's why we're talking $28 million in this election cycle. $28 million scattered across a lot of candidates. But I think they understand that even American Jews who get a free trip to Israel, who are taught Israel's great, amazing, even American Jews are hip and understand the impact of the occupation on Palestinian people, Palestinian human rights. They understand the destabilizing force that Israel is in the Middle East generally. And so take our cues from organizations like If Not Now, if you are concerned about anti-Semitism and the like, because they're leading the charge to say, no, my Jewish identity is not linked to Israel's occupation of Palestinians, Israel's subjugation and killing of citizens and journalists every single day. So, yeah.
I'm gonna say one last thing. Look, we've got probably millions of Jewish viewers, literally, okay? And I'm asking you, don't ever give money to AIPAC. They will use it for Republicans. They will use it to destroy the things that you care about most. Give it to other wonderful pro-Israel groups like J Street, or give it to other causes that help everyone involved, okay? But don't help right-wing groups like AIPAC and Democratic Majority for Israel, who are all massively corrupt and will misuse your money to attack you. Don't ever make that mistake.
All right, well, let's jump into this final story for my hour, and this one's very hot, and literally hot.
Here in Trafalgar Square, some people are cooling themselves off in the fountain behind me. The UK has just broken its record high temperature today of 102 degrees Fahrenheit. In a country where not even an estimated 5% of homes have air conditioning, many residents and visitors are finding practical ways to stay cool.
So that is in the UK, and obviously across Europe, there is a brutal heat wave. Earlier today, as the reporter said, UK broke a record for the highest temperature ever. However, there may be a silver lining if you are a ginger, that's right. But hang on for that, there's some fun stuff here. But for now, let's look at what's going on. So the UK Met Office Weather Agency registered a provisional reading of 40.3 degrees Celsius, 104.5 degrees Fahrenheit at Coningsby in eastern England, breaking the record set just hours before. Before Tuesday, the highest temperature recorded in Britain was 38.7 degrees Celsius or 101.7 degrees Fahrenheit set in 2019. By later afternoon, 29 places in the UK had broken the record. The sweltering weather has disrupted travel, healthcare, schools, and a country not prepared for such extremes. A huge chunk of England remained under the country's first red warning for extreme heat Tuesday, meaning there's a danger of even death for healthy people. And people have actually been drowning in some of the places where they're trying to get cool in. 6 people were reported to have drowned across the UK. It's very scary. Trains, which weren't built to handle the heat, have been suspended. And of course, we have climate change to thank for this. Climate experts warn that global warming has increased the frequency of extreme weather events, with studies showing that the likelihood of temperatures in the UK reaching 40 degrees or 104 degrees Fahrenheit is now 10 times higher than in the pre-industrial era. So it is insane and it's crazy. And there's also massive fires and heat-related deaths in Portugal, in Spain, as there's a heat wave there. But there is good news for gingers. So, sorry, I'm hearing something and it's bothering me. I apologize. So apparently, one cinema, Showcase Cinemas, is giving out free movie tickets to redheads because of the heat wave. That's right, you see it there. Free tickets for redheads on the hottest days ever, Monday the 18th and Tuesday, July 19th at Showcase Cinemas, which is very funny. Like, thinking about it now, let's be real. Unlike the United States, many locations and homes in Britain do not have air conditioning. Most cinemas, however, do have air conditioning. Since redheads are often more vulnerable than most to the sun's rays, we're giving them shelter from the sun inside our fully air-conditioned cinema screens, Showcase said in a statement. So redheads are cashing in despite climate change. That's fun.
Yeah. So first of all, I like that we don't know who, like, it's a company, it's not really progressives, but it's a progressive way of thinking that we look out for each other, right? And so I like that they're looking out for really pale white people, because in that case, they're the ones who are more endangered. So the progressive ideology is protect those who are the most endangered, right? So white people, come inside, watch a movie, okay? Don't endanger yourself. Climate change is real. So seriously, guys, the planet is melting. 99% of the world's scientists say it. When historians look back, if there are historians, if there is a planet, they'll say, well, every scientist on the planet said it was happening, then they saw it happening, and then they saw fires consume whole towns at a time in California, in Australia, now all over Europe, and they didn't do anything about it? Well, why didn't they do anything about it? Oh, because a couple of billionaires in America were gonna make a couple more bucks because they run fossil fuel companies, so they were gonna make a little bit more money. And then the historians will ask, yes, but did they need more money? Oh, no, they were among the richest people in the world. But then didn't everybody die anyway? Yeah, they did. Why? And the answer will be greed, insatiable, endless greed. And so honestly, the whole world should put up pictures of Joe Manchin saying this is the villain that is killing us. Yeah. Hundreds of people have died in this heat wave. Whose fault is it? It's the fault of people who take no action on climate change. Who has unilaterally stopped all action on climate change? It just happened this week. It's Joe Manchin. He's a Democrat from West Virginia, and he owns a coal company. So he made over as TYT investigates showed, he's made over $5 million from killing you in the last 10 years. So he thinks, yeah, maybe you're dying from climate change, maybe in England, maybe in Australia, maybe somewhere else. What do I care? I'm getting rich. and fellow Democrats are lying down like dogs in front of him because he calls himself a Democrat. So they're like, we can't attack, we can't say with the truth. Republicans love it. Republicans are monsters. They're like, oh, more people are gonna die? Let's tell them we're the pro-life party. Where's the oil money? Okay, that's Republicans. So they should put up pictures of American Republicans and Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema all across the world and say, these are the bad guys in the movie of our lives.
Yeah, don't get the redheads mad either. Gingers, they're fiery. Give them free. But anyway, sick them on Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. I did want to say that record temperatures are happening in the US too. Oklahoma City is gonna reach 111 degrees Fahrenheit on this week, the hottest day there in a decade. Houston's gonna hit 100 degrees on Wednesday and Thursday. That sounds like, oh, okay, it's Houston. But usually both of those cities are averaging around 94 degrees at this time of the year. Biden is not necessarily sitting idly by. We might see later this week, he's thinking about declaring a state of emergency for the United States when it comes to climate change and the climate emergency. What would that do? That would unlock sweeping presidential powers, redirect federal funding to clean energy construction, steer aid to communities on the front lines of climate change, and even curb the export of fossil fuels, driving global warming. So it's something in the wake of Joe Manchin being like, no, I'm really president, I don't wanna do anything. Yeah, he should declare an emergency. He should declare an emergency around abortion rights as well. Unlock all the funds, man. Let's get the Defense Production Act up when it comes to climate change, which actually is currently still killing us. Anyway, yeah.
So yeah, Biden's a loser. It'd be shocking if he did anything substantive. Usually, if he does something, it's theatrics. So he'll find a way to, even if he does an executive order, he'll find a way to gut his own executive order so that it's meaningless. Just read a story out of Politico saying that Joe Biden is secretly mad at Joe Manchin for killing the climate agenda and the entirety of the rest of his agenda, but he doesn't want to say, and he doesn't want to do the executive order yet because he doesn't want to anger Joe Manchin, who apparently is his daddy. So Joe Biden, you're supposed to have a lot of power. You're supposed to say to senators like Joe Manchin, you'll do that. If you do the right thing, I'll give you good stuff, right? If you do the wrong thing, I'm gonna punish you. I know for Joe Biden, that's unthinkable, unless you're a progressive, in which case he'll have all of his lobbyist friends come and try to destroy your career. But for Manchin, so Joe Biden will spend the rest of his term kissing Joe Manchin's ass right in the middle, okay? And so England.
And in this heat, that is not a good place to kiss anyone.
Yeah, I see England, I see France. Joe Biden sees Joe Manchin's underpants. Okay, on that note, we're gonna take a break. Everybody also check out the Twitchuation room, which is on twitch.tv/TYT. That's also Francesca's show on our network. Francesca, you're awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.
When we come back, we have more bad news, but shockingly, we have really good news. We'll be back.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.